Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean, and I want to talk a little bit today about the Billy Joe Saunders David Lemieux fight. I wanted to talk about this a few days ago when it got announced, but this is the first chance I've had, so I do it now. Happy with the fight. I think this is a good test for Billy Joe Saunders, a dangerous fight. This is exactly what he needs, really, to legitimise himself as a proper world champion, especially the fact that it's in Canada. Billy Joe Saunders has had a very, very unimpressive title reign. People don't really respect him as a proper world champion. Now, I don't really respect him as a proper world champion. Well, I do now. He's going in that direction, but until these kind of moves that he's starting to make now, I haven't done, to be honest, and definitely people around the world haven't. Now, I've been following Billy Joe Saunders his whole career since the Olympics, and I remember he went there with like James DeGale, Frankie Gavin. I can't remember who else off the top of my head, but I remember those three all signed to Frank Warren, and there was someone else as well. I'm sure there was someone I'm missing. I remember Frankie Gavin, James DeGale, Billy Joe Saunders, and they all, everyone was talking they were going to be quite successful. Frank Warren had quite high hopes for him. A lot of people thinking that Frankie Gavin was going to be the best out of them. I didn't think that. I thought that James DeGale and Billy Joe Saunders were going to be the best. Now, James DeGale's obviously gone on to have a very good career. Billy Joe Saunders, a decent career, pretty good. I think he can make it a lot better. Frankie Gavin, he's had an okay career, not bad. Not as good as the other two, but I mean, he was always a better amateur, really, his style, than as a professional. But anyway, Billy Joe Saunders, I've seen him come up through the sort of British scene, beating all the top contenders basically in the UK, proved himself the number one in the country. Then he went on, European, won a world title against Andy Lee. Good performance. But then since then, he hasn't really done much. And he's not been, really... Well, he's basically become a bit of a joke, really, in boxing, like world boxing. Now, he's going in the right direction now. And in my opinion, he has been for some time. So, yeah, now I'm quite happy with the way his career's going. I'm glad that he's turning it around because I expect quite a lot from him. I think he's very, very underrated. But, he beat Andy Lee and then did absolutely nothing for a year. There was a situation with Golovkin hanging over him. Now, I don't think he particularly wanted to fight Golovkin at that point. I don't think he was really ready for it. I think Golovkin was just on fire at that point. Billy Joe Saunders had just won his world title. He needed to feel like he needed to mature a little bit. But I think as well as that, he knew the strength of his position. Now, Golovkin was going around telling everyone who would listen that he wanted to be undisputed. He was, he seemed quite desperate for that, really. That's all he was talking about, all he wanted to do. He couldn't get an opponent for love nor money. Like, nobody wanted to fight him. No one really, like, big name wanted to fight him. So Billy Joe Saunders knew how desperate he was for that fight to win that belt. So people talking about, he didn't accept this much money and that much money. I mean, the amount of money seems to go up every day, every time you talk to people. But I don't doubt that he was offered quite a lot of money. I think he was just thinking, well, to be honest, I might as well make loads of money out of this. That's what I think happened. I think a bit of that and a bit of the fact that he just wasn't really that keen on the idea. So I thought if he was going to do it, he was going to need a lot more money. Anyway, it didn't happen. People didn't really respect him as a world champion. He fought Akabov, who was a mandatory challenger, after about a year. I mean, to be fair, Akabov was probably a lot better than people gave him credit for. He was actually a pretty decent opponent. Now, it was a very close fight. I don't remember exactly how it went, but from what I do remember, it was one of those fights that really could have gone either way. Probably Billy Joe Saunders edged it, but it was very, very close. And if it had been in was it Russia? Russian? If it had been in Russia, you could have quite plausibly seen it going the other way. And that was in front of about 1,500 people in a leisure centre. So, yeah, it was kind of at an all-time low, really, his career and his status, really, as a world champion at that point. He was very negative about his own performance and very honest about it. And then since then, I think he's been trying to go in the right direction. Now, he tried to make the fight with Golovkin in Kazakhstan. Because everyone was saying he was scared of Golovkin, he was this, he was that. But he was up for going to fight him in Kazakhstan. So, you've got to respect that. Golovkin didn't want to do it because obviously he had the Canelo fight for a lot more money, a much bigger name. So you can understand it, I suppose. But Personally, I was a bit disappointed in Golovkin there. I mean, he was going on about being undisputed, and that was all he was talking about all the time. And then the opportunity presented itself in Kazakhstan for like, I mean, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was some special kind of festival in Kazakhstan at the time. I mean, it would have been perfect for him to get undisputed. Probably would have beaten Billy Joe Saunders. And he decided not to because he wanted to go and fight Canelo in Las Vegas. Fair enough. I mean, it can't be too hard on him for that. But personally, I would have liked to have seen that fight. But anyway, Billy Joe Saunders, he was going in that right direction. Then tried to make the fight with who was going to fight? What's his name? The other mandatory, Danny DeVito. I can't remember his name. The Mafia bloke. That didn't. I was looking forward to that. I thought that would have been quite a good fight. I thought Billy Joe Saunders would have won. I think he was just too quick on his feet, too difficult to hit for someone as sort of straightforward as that. But it would have been dangerous because the bloke had a serious punch in him, and he seemed to have quite an engine as well. So it would have been dangerous throughout the whole fight. Obviously that fell through because the bloke got nicked and sent down for I don't know how many years. So then you're in they were talking about like Danny Jacobs was up for fighting him, and at that point I don't know how it worked, but there was no way Frank Warren was going to let him fight Danny Jacobs at that point as the mandatory when he wasn't as a voluntary defence. When he was thinking that the next fight was going to be the Canelo or Golovkin. So that was never going to happen. That would have been a very good opportunity for him to really prove himself as a legitimate world champion. Because Danny Jacobs, for me, is the number 2 in the division right now. Golovkin, Danny Jacobs. But that would have been, I mean, for a voluntary just before that, realistically, it was never going to happen, was it? I mean, not many people do stuff like that. That's a fight I do want to see in the future, though. Then they tried to make the David Lemieux fight. David Lemieux turned it down, saying something about his hand, but it looks like he was trying to fight Miguel Cotto instead. So, he turned it down for that reason. Ended up fighting Willie Monroe. Now, Willie Monroe, we all know what happened. He came over to England, shit himself, and didn't really put in a good performance. But still, on paper, that's a pretty decent opponent. Willie Monroe is a very good boxer. Billy Joe Saunders is a very good boxer. Yeah, he kind of quit against Golovkin, but Billy Joe Saunders isn't Golovkin. He's not a big power puncher, relentless machine like Golovkin. He's a boxer, so he outboxed Willie Monroe. He kind of roughed him up a little bit, but really he outboxed him, which is pretty impressive. Now the fact that Willie Monroe didn't really perform 100%. Well, I suppose you've got to give Saunders credit for that to a certain extent, because he basically intimidated him before the fight, and he just sort of psychologically beat him before the fight started. Now, I don't like the way a lot of the stuff he did going into that fight, and the stuff I made a video about his son punching Danny Jacobs not Danny Jacobs, Willie Monroe in the bollocks. Didn't like that at all. That was bang out of order. I think this is, not a lot of people like Billy Joe Saunders in the UK, and it's because of stuff like that. Really, I mean, he's got himself to blame. That kind of behaviour means that people don't really like him. And I remember reading the comments. Pretty much everyone in the UK was wanting Willie Monroe to win that fight. So he doesn't have a lot of support. He's got his hardcore fans, but he does himself no favours with that kind of behaviour, to me. Now, David Lemieux, this is a very credible opponent. This is someone who's a very big puncher, someone who is considered a very good win for Golovkin. He's definitely considered one of the top people in the division. Now, I'd say Golovkin and Danny Jacobs are number 1 and 2. Obviously, Canelo has just come into it. I don't really want to... In terms of ability, yes, but all he's really done, he's had one fight, albeit against the number 1, put on a decent performance, got a gift decision draw, but yeah, he's up there in terms of ability, but he's going to need to do a bit more for me to put him up there. David Lemieux, you'd probably say, yeah, he's like a top 5 middleweight, so this is good, especially the fact that it's in Canada as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm happy that Billy Joe Saunders is trying to prove himself, and that he's not just holding the belt hostage. Now, going to fight David Lemieux in Canada is a statement. So yeah, after that, I think people are going to have to respect him as a proper world champion. Now, in terms of the fight itself, um, I think Billy Joe Saunders should beat David Lemieux if he's on top of his game. Billy Joe Saunders is very, very difficult to hit. He's got very good footwork and he's got a decent jab. And we've seen David Lemieux, I mean, get completely outboxed by a jab. David Lemieux he's a power puncher. He comes forward and pretty much every punch, not every punch, but most punches that he throws are like big swinging punches. I think to someone like Billy Joe Saunders, with the reflexes he has and how defensively minded he is, I think it's going to be very difficult for David Lemieux to. I think it's going to be almost impossible for David Lemieux to beat him on points. I just think like his land percentage is going to be very, very low. I mean, he's obviously got a chance of knocking him out. He's got a serious punch on him. But Billy Joe Saunders, he's very defensively sound. He's very slick. He's got a good chin, and his reflexes are very good. So when he does get hit, he's nearly always like sort of rolling with it. Do you know what I mean? You don't really see him get caught flush. And when we have seen him get caught flush, he takes it. He's got a lot of grit and determination as well. And he's experienced. Do you know what I mean? He's been around a while. He's been obviously he's amateurs. He's not just going to get hit and panic and start trying to swing back. He knows how to survive. So I see Billy Joe Saunders outboxing him. Really, I see Lemieux coming forward, swinging loads of punches. Billy Joe just moving away, pivoting away, slipping most of them, outpointing him. And David Lemieux will probably tire like towards the end. I mean, possibly so will Billy Joe Saunders, but David Lemieux, I don't know, with all the effort he puts into his punches, I don't know how much energy he's going to have in the last 4, even 5 rounds, to be honest with you, because he's going to be swinging at air for most of the fight. The one thing that does concern me about this, though, is that I saw a comment from Oscar De La Hoya saying that, if David Lemieux wins this fight, then he can fight Canelo if the Golovkin fight doesn't happen. Now, the Golovkin fight probably will happen, but the fact that Oscar De La Hoya is talking about him fighting Canelo, we see, I mean, I don't need to go over the amount of examples of, suspect scorecards with Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo, Golden Boy in Canada. Billy Joe Saunders is kind of the type of fighter who does enough to win, but he doesn't always win like really, really convincingly. Do you know what I mean? You see him when you think, yeah, he won that fight, but it's not like he just completely dominates for 12 rounds. Like when Mayweather fought Canelo sort of style, there's just no way you could say that Canelo won the fight. I mean, someone tried to give it a draw, didn't they? But I don't think Billy Joe Saunders is that kind of fighter. He's going to take a bit of time off. He's going to win, but he'll leave potentially enough room to get robbed. Now, and if they're trying to set up like David Lemieux against Canelo, because I don't know how many options Canelo has at middleweight, really, that are that attractive. I mean, is he going to want to fight Danny Jacobs? I doubt it. Going to want to fight Jamal Charlo? Again, I doubt it. I think they'd much rather fight David Lemieux. I think stylistically, although he's just as dangerous as those, so I think stylistically it'd be easier for him. So that's the one concern I would have. But hopefully there'll be none of that. Hopefully Billy Joe Saunders can go on, put on a convincing performance, bring the belt home, and then move on to bigger and better things. So yeah, that's pretty much what I want to say. Good news all round, really. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching.